Where's Michelle? Hello everyone and welcome to this evening's Agenda Briefing Forum. This evening is not a decision-making forum, it is the briefing on the agenda for the Ordinary Council meeting, which will be held next Tuesday, the 27th of May 2025. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the Council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Item 3 is announcements and councillors. As the statutory advertising period for differential rates closes on Thursday, the 22nd of May 2025, item 10.2.5, differential rate submissions 25 to 26 will be issued under separate cover. City officers have advised that this report will be issued on or before Monday, the 26th of May 2025. I'll now move on to item 4, which is attendance, and Councillor Maleka has provided an apology for this evening. And I believe Councillor Sutherland will be joining us shortly. Disclosures of interest. Are there any councillors who have interest to disclose? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a non-financial 10.3.2 tender for Morley Noranda Rec Centre, just as a social member of the Morley Noranda Rec Centre. Thank you.
So it's impartial and you'll be staying in the room.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor Eveson.
Yes, I've got one. It's 10.2.1. In attachment 7, there's a reference to Watton Skate Park and surrounding facilities. It's an impartial interest. I'm a member of the Morley Windmills Sports Club and we lease one of the facilities at Watton Reserve, so I'll stay in the room.
Do you mind repeating the item number? I missed that.
10.2.1 and it's the attachment 7. It's mentioned in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Osazowski.
My declaration is for item 10.2.1, the financial report for the period ended 30 April 2025, same as Councillor Eveson's. Watton Skate Park and surrounding facilities is mentioned in the attachment. I'm a member of the Morley Windmills Sports Club who leases a building at Watton Reserve. It's an impartial interest and I'll be staying in the room.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I'll go on to item 6, which is deputations. So this evening we have 6 in person, or 7? 7, there's a late one. We have 7 in-person deputations. And so I'll explain how the process works. Each person who is presenting will be invited to come forward and speak at the microphone for up to 5 minutes. As we get close to 5 minutes, I will let you know so that you can conclude your deputation. Once you have finished, the councillors may have some questions for you. So our first one is in relation to item 10.3.3. Wendy Garstone has requested to speak in opposition to the officer's recommendation.
Good evening, Wendy Garstone from Maylands. Firstly, I'd like to commend the work done by the council and its officers who firstly obtained tree canopy coverage data, to the officers who have comprehensively analysed that data and have also summarised and reported on it. Not all councils and communities have this level of knowledge on tree canopy. On the first glance at the proposed revised target, it seems reasonable, a common sense approach. So much has been achieved in the last 10 years. What more can we do? But I'd like everyone to remember that there have been some steps that have been proposed that would have increased our canopy that have not been taken in the last 10 years. And so I believe that there is much more that could be done if there was the will to do that, to do more. This council, as does all, has a mandate to consider climate change in all its decisions. I think that extending the target abandons the harsh truth that Perth is experiencing hotter and longer summers. We all know that the doctors for the environment state over and over, as canopy advocates do, that a healthy canopy coverage is 30%. And 30% by 2040 has been accepted by the state government. So surely this is the target that should be adopted by the city. I believe that having a target that is seemingly out of reach has made a difference to the tree canopy work done by all in the City of Bayswater since we've had a target since the Urban Forest Strategy. Surely this has kept our eyes on the need to consider new approaches over and over. I think that extending the target risks everyone adopting a business as usual approach. And also, considering that the state has set a target of 30% by 2040, I ask, how does the council expect to move from 20% by 2035 to 30% by 2040? There have been several major changes to tree canopy work for the state this year. The state government, as I said, announced its target in February. It has also said that the release of its greening strategy, which has been in progress for the last 18 months, will be sometime this year. So it's reasonable to expect that the Promise for Greening strategy will provide guidance to all on how 30% by 24 can be reached. So I think that the timing of council revising its target before the release of the state greening strategy is poor and inconsistent with what we know the state government's target is. So I ask councillors if you can vote to delay the revision of the target until the state government has released its greening strategy. I'd like to see that officers and the community be made able to consider which elements of the greening strategy can be applied to the processes and the work that's been done by the city, and how 30% by 2040 can be reached. I ask that all keep striving on this important health issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just ask if there's any questions from councillors for you. Any questions, councillors? No, thank you very much for your deputation. The next one is in relation to the same item, item 10.3.3. Georgina Kerr has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. I'm Georgina Kerr, Bedford. It is with mixed emotions that I speak in favour of the officer's recommendation on this item. I strongly believe that 20% by 2025 was achievable when it was set, and 20% by 2030, when it was first revised, was achievable at that time. However, the modelling that we have now shows that it is no longer achievable. Therefore, there's two options. We can leave the target as is and aim for an increasingly far away target. Second, we can revise the target again. If the second is chosen, then council must ensure that the city builds on the positives achieved over the past 5 years, for example, increased tree planting, while ensuring decisions that undermine this target are not repeated. For example, approving removal of healthy mature trees based on aesthetics or preference alone. The city must also continue to advocate to the state government for action at state level to support local governments in this effort. It cannot fall to local governments alone, but local governments alone are responsible for their decisions and actions that they take within their scope of responsibility. Local governments also have the power to influence the actions of individual property owners and developers through policy, education and advocacy. Limb 3 of the recommendation is particularly important as it provides a checkpoint for accountability. 2027, half of the current council will still be on council by this point. The responsibility is on you to make decisions that support this target before 2027. I support the officer's recommendation to revise the target, but I don't want to be standing here again in 5 years' time arguing for the same things as the 20% target slips further and further away. I don't want my kids to be asking me why I didn't do more. Don't let ratepayers be asking you in 5 years why our houses are hotter, our power bills are higher, our wildlife has disappeared and our health is in decline. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask if there are any questions from councillors. No, thank you very much. The next deputation is in relation to the same item, 10.3.3. John Williams has requested to comment on the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, councillors and the CEO. From reading the item, I was disappointed with the figures that were quoted in relation to what the expectations of community are. But I'm not here to debate those figures. I've come along to express some concerns about some local issues. One is watering. There is a lot of watering that's done on verges of trees, which is a positive thing, but we have considerable natural areas that require watering, especially with the drying climate. Speaking from my own personal experience, we have carried out a lot of planting in areas in Noranda, especially near the natural areas, but there is no follow-up watering, and these are usually conducted by a community. And when I have requested that, it has required to come out of our environmental budget. So my concern is why isn't there a budget for watering included in the planting schemes by community? It's just so important for the survival. Without that, we're probably looking at a 20% survival rate. We know from facts that we can achieve at least 40%. But my concern is that it seems to be having the pressure of coming out of the environmental itself budget. So what happens? We have to sort of give up some of our other necessities of maintaining those natural areas of weed control, phytophthora, dieback and so forth. And I do know the council does spend a lot of resources in watering the verge trees, which brings me to the other subject is there an audit on the death of verge trees and replacement? I at the moment have at least in my street, which adjoins Lightning Swan Bushland, at least 8 dead trees. 4 of those are in the 4 to 5 metre category, which is what you actually rate your canopy. They've been dead for at least 3 years. So there's been no replacement. And I'm sure that may exist through the whole city of Bayswater. So it's not a case of just looking for empty spaces, it's basically auditing what trees we have that are surviving. And that may require different species, I don't know. My third concern, and it's all local, is we have an area of 1.5 hectares adjoining Malaga Drive. It's the most disappointing area of bushland that I know of. It's weed infested, degraded. It has exotic species which are not suitable, and it just sits there. And it's basically in one of the main entrances to City of Bayswater. Why? We're spending $1 million on 4 hectares in the Riverside Gardens on an area there. Now, this is 1.5 hectares of natural area, but it's just been left to its own devices. I have close relationship with the environmental team, and they don't have any funding to do anything there. So I'm sort of suggesting to the council is that if we were to put some resources into there, I'm sure we could get community to do a host of planting in there of tree canopy. So again, I think these things are sort of slipping through the cracks when we talk about canopy. We need to look at, you know, the whole picture of what's happening, and that includes our natural areas, which do need that sort of help for survival, not just street verges, which seems to be the flavour of the month, or the flavour of the year, or the flavour of the 5 years. Yeah, that's my point. So thank you very much. And I just hope you are listening, because I hope it isn't just business as usual. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. Before you take a seat, I'll just ask if there's questions. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Williams. And can you just tell us again where the 1.5 hectares of degraded land?
As you drive into along Malaga Drive, and where it goes into that roundabout of Crimea, it's that whole length of I don't know what you call it, a mix of bushes, trees, and everything else. I know the council did spend a considerable amount of money fencing it, and then that's where it's gone. But I mean, we could at least put 3 to 4 times the amount of tree canopy in there. But my understanding is there's been no interest or expenditure put into that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Ladder.
I just wanted to ask, you mentioned the survival rate from tree planting at 20%. Is that based on your experience with the community planting at Lightning Swamp?
That's a recent figure, low figure, given that we've had these extended dry patches.
Yeah.
You know, we're finding we've trialled this right now in the last 2 years, and as I said, the watering has come out of our own budget for Lightning Swamp, and we've found that we've increased that to 40%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. Just another quick question, please, Mr Williams. With the watering or the water level at Lightning Bushland, can you just give us an idea of where it's at?
Interestingly, we've been monitoring the groundwater table. This is the Friends group, ourselves, for the last 15 years. So we started in 2010. We're finding that it hasn't dramatically changed too much. We don't know why, you know, considering that we're drying at the moment. But I think we just need more data. But what's happening is outside of the wetland perimeter, we are getting a lot of tree deaths. You know, we've actually seen them, tree deaths. But we just don't know. What's been suggested to me by, you know, the experts and the unis, is that because of this extended heat periods and all that, their resistance to disease and trying to survive is not so much just the water table. It's just that they're actually under a lot of stress. So the trees are stressing out. So, you know, it's not a matter of just them rooting into the water table. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you for your deputation. You mentioned several dead trees in the street where you live in the area.
Yeah, yes.
Do you know whether those trees were reported to the city?
No. They're existing trees that were placed there many years ago. That's 3 of them. The other 4 were trees that were planted by the city.
Okay, but you're not sure if anyone reported them to the city?
I don't know,
Thank you.
not to my knowledge of neighbours, but, you know, that's all I can say.
Okay.
But this goes back 3 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question, Mr. Williams.
okay.
Just talking about the planting that's occurring down at Lightning Swamp, and you're saying the mortality rate is quite high. So my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not overly familiar with all of the species that we're planting, but my understanding is that when we do these planting days, we're planting species of trees that are mostly native and and the reason for that is because we do have a limit to our water allocation as a city, and we're trying to plant trees that aren't going to require as much water. So is that not happening?
Yep, that's a good question. What we try to do, because it's a natural area, we try to plant endemic species.
Okay.
Now, one of the reasons you do that is because the ecology relies on those endemic species. For instance, insects, reptiles, habitat, birds. Birds don't nest in plane trees.
We're not planting plane trees.
No, but what I'm trying to do is explain why you've got to be careful of what you plant. So it's critical that you plant endemic species, but plant endemic species that you think may have a good survival rate in a drying climate. So we just got to be smarter about some of the plants that we do choose. So that in answer to your
there's
question,
an improvement
Yeah,
that can
an
be
improvement.
made in that area?
yes,
Okay.
Mayor. But Mayor, given, and I mean, I'm sure everyone sitting here notices what's happening out there. We're just not getting the rainfall. Even the Jarrah forests are suffering. And if you notice the rainfall line, it's moving more south, the wetter. So we're not getting the annual rainfalls that we got in the past. So yeah, it's a matter of just being smarter, but it needs that watering for the first 2 years. That's my point. For the first 2 years, planting in natural areas anywhere requires that watering, and we're just missing that one at the moment. So I'm just asking the council to consider that and budget for that.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go on to our next deputation, which is in relation to the same item again, 10.3.3. We have Aviv Silman speaking to provide comment.
Thank you, everyone, for coming here tonight. I just want to say, I think the idea is very nice of having more trees in the city and making them more canopy. It kind of reminds me of Crown City from the movie The Roark, Master of Illusions, where the Crown City is kind of like a city in a forest, and there's like lots of trees, and like Ash and Brock and Dawn and Pikachu and Piplup. They really like that city. But Bayswater City is not a fictional city. It's a real city with real trade-offs and real people living inside, and we have to think about that. I object to the large cost of the enhanced program, and I think I agree with the officer that we shouldn't go forward with the more ambitious targets, as this would cost a large amount of money. It costs $14.9 million. And I acknowledge that we've lost about 2.8 hectares, according to the report of tree canopy. And yes, some people are correct that that'll cause higher energy bills and also possibly more health problems and also more environmental problems. But at the end of the day, if you increase the amount of money you spend to help trees, especially in a limited budget, which we all know there's a limited budget, we have to think what the ultimate use of that money could be. And in my opinion, it would be like smarter if we could use that money to like build more houses as opposed to like building more trees. What's the point of building more trees if there aren't people to live in the city where there's trees. I think Crown City is like 3 stories high most of the time. If you look at the movie, and everyone liked that movie in the movie, that city in the movie. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your deputation. I'll just see if there are any questions. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you for coming tonight. Firstly, I'm sorry I didn't pick up your suburb of residence.
Yeah, I am in Noranda. I do live in the city, in City of Bayswater, yes.
Noranda, thank you. So you, just so I understand your position, so you're saying that you would like to, you do not want to see more trees planted around Noranda?
It's not that I don't want to see more trees. It's just that I think this focus on the trees is not where the focus needs to be. The focus needs to be on making people, and then and then there'll be more. And like you can have people and trees, is what I'm trying to say. But first you got to put people, and then there'll be trees.
Okay, so you're saying that we should focus first on more housing and development?
Yes.
And forget about planting trees until we have more people?
Yeah.
And then we will fund money for trees. Is this what you're saying?
Partially because there'll be more people, there'll be more money to make more trees.
So at what stage do you think we should start planting trees in Noranda?
When we fix the housing crisis.
Okay. And there's just last question. Do you think that position is shared by your neighbors, your community around where you live?
I haven't consulted them, but I'm sure if I were to ask, certainly people around my age group, they think it would be more important to focus on the housing issue than the tree problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your deputation. Now we'll move on to the next one, which is in relation to item 10.5.1.8. Wendy Garstone has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Wendy Garstone Maylands. This one's very short and simple. Implementing a process that seeks to protect trees on private property, I think, is essential. And this policy is an important step forward for the City of Bayswater. Therefore, I support the work that officers have done in refining the process in the revised policy, and also the clear communication that's been outlined in the policy, in the draft policy. And therefore, I look forward to being able to make detailed comment if this policy goes out for community engagement again. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask if there are any questions from councillors. No, thank you very much. The next one is in relation to the same item, 10.5.1.8. Georgina Kerr has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. So I am speaking in support of the officer's recommendation to adopt the revised tree retention policy for public advertising. I note that the policy, when it was called the Trees on Private Land and Street Verges policy, received a total of 459 submissions, if you were not from within the City of Bayswater, which is a pretty high response rate. This shows that trees are important to our community. A majority of 55% supported the draft policy, with a further 14% partially supporting it. So maybe there were some bits they weren't happy with, but they were generally in favour. An even higher majority supported the objectives of the policy, with a further 15% partially supporting the objectives. These responses make it clear that the majority of residents and ratepayers do want the city to take some action to prevent the loss of trees on private property, which we know is a significant contributor to the low tree canopy rates and difficulty in meeting the city's targets in this regard, as we heard earlier. The city cannot meet the target, even the revised one that is up for the next council meeting, without some action to safeguard trees on private property. The feedback also makes it clear that some people do have reservations about things like government overreach or restrictive conditions in this regard. That's valid feedback. Others have concerns that particular parts of that draft policy may actually encourage property owners to remove trees to preempt any such restrictions. I think that the revised policy, along with its new name, strike a balance that fits current community sentiment, where it aims to improve tree retention on private property without applying many restrictions to the average property owner. In particular, I'm supportive of Objective 7, which is something that many people have spoken to me about, and that is the negative practice of clearing mature trees as part of subdivision and development before any site planning has been undertaken. There will be those in the community who are disappointed that more isn't being done with this policy. To me, that's a discussion for another time. For what's on the table before you next week for this council, it's vital that council listen to the majority of the community and take some action for tree retention. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask if there are any questions. I have a question. So you quoted the consultation figures that were received by the city. Are you aware of any lobby group that was active in the community about encouraging people to respond to this?
Yes. Well, it depends what you mean by lobby group. The Bayswater Tree Canopy Advocates, which is a small group of residents of the City of Bayswater that have worked with city officers and met with many councillors. We did encourage people to submit comment. We didn't direct, sometimes there are sort of template submissions, we didn't push anything like that. So it is possible that that encouraged more people to submit, but not necessarily in favour. As I'm sure you would know, Mayor, on Facebook, you can post these things and they can go one way or the other. So posting that may have encouraged some people to submit in favour. It may have encouraged some people to submit against.
Was there anything other than Facebook? Were there leaflet drops to homes?
Yes, I funded a small printing of leaflets, which the Tree Canopy Advocates did deliver. Again, that didn't suggest a model response. It just encouraged people to have their say.
Okay. Could I ask how many leaflets were delivered to residents?
I'm not sure because I had people come and collect leaflets from me and I don't know if they all got delivered.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Osadowski.
Thank you. Following on from those questions, with the leaflet, the policy talks about two different areas. It talks about subdivisions and development, and then the private property owner component in the policy. The leaflet that was sent out, which parts of the policy did it focus on?
Stretching my memory now, there's a lot of water under the bridge since then. I believe the graphics, which would have been the most eye-catching part of the flyer, focused on property subdivision. So there was a before and after of a block before subdivision, which had a number of mature trees, and then the after, which had it cleared block to block, fence line to fence line, sorry.
Can you use your microphone?
Is it possible that I could get a copy of this flyer to have a look at it?
Yeah, I'm happy to send you a copy.
Thank you.
I think I must have it somewhere in my computer still. I'm happy to send you one.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we now move on to the next one, which is in relation to item 11.2. David Dyke has requested to speak in support of the motion.
David Dyke, Maylands. The detail in the motion and the officer's report, plus the addendum, sums up everything. It's fairly conclusive. Barden Park Malgamonga Friends Group totally agree with this proposal and would like to see a formal process put into action. With the place naming process completed, it now is appropriate to follow through with dual naming. I consider our wider community have accepted informal recognition of the dual names for more than 30 years that I am aware of. My own acknowledgement of country actually includes both names. Our Friends Group Facebook page has had both names since 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll ask if there are any questions from councillors. Councillor Latta.
Thank you. David, we've had some conversations about a process that you pursued some time ago now. I think I had a look in the minutes from 2021 when you met with the Reconciliation Committee at the City. Could you maybe just explain your involvement in that process and what happened prior to this place naming process that we've just had?
My first process was to go to Landgate because I thought I could do it myself, which, talking to Landgate, he brought out a page with all little boxes on that you had to actually go through and tick. Everything was ticked off except the part where they expect traditional owners to authorise the whole thing. So he suggested I come back to the City of Bayswater and present the whole thing there, which I did do in the RAC committee and presented the whole thing.
And do you know why it didn't proceed at that time?
Mainly because there wasn't the process of acknowledgement by the traditional owners, and the whole naming right through this Swan catchment area was going through the process.
Thank you, that's all.
Any other questions? Thank you for your deputation, Mr Dyke. So we now move on to item 7, which is questions on agenda reports. So we'll now ask if there are any questions on items that were subject to the deputations. The first one being 10.3.3, the tree canopy coverage target review. Deputy Mayor, you've indicated you have some questions on this one.
Yes, thank you. My first question is with regards to dead trees around the city, and it echoes what we heard from one of the deputies tonight. My question is, how long does it take the city to replace dead trees around the city, and specifically dead trees reported to the city? Because I am aware that there are trees that have been reported a long time ago and they're still there. So, yeah.
I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, the city does undertake an inspection of all the trees around the city to find ones that are dead or declining, and then we either provide further watering for the ones that are declining, and if there's ones that are dead, then we'll plan to remove them and replace them. What we try to do is replace them in the first winter after we discover that the tree is dead. In those particular cases, I will look into and find out why those trees were missed, whether they just weren't part of the inspection process or the street might have been missed for some reason. But normally we do go across all the city and do an audit of every single tree.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. So it's not only the trees that were mentioned by the deputy. I'm aware of many other trees in other suburbs that have been reported to the city months and months ago and are still there. So I'm trying to understand, is it a resourcing issue?
Deputy Mayor, I think the answer that was given is that if it's reported months ago, it will happen in this winter's planting season.
So the trees will be removed during winter?
Through the chair, that's correct. We'll endeavour to remove them. We use contractors to remove the trees. So it's a case of getting contractors in to do the work. Once they're removed, we will replace them, and we endeavour to do them this winter.
Okay, so just a follow-up question through you, Madam Mayor. So why trees cannot be removed during the year? Why do we need to wait? Why does the city have the practice to wait to winter to remove the trees?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I mean, we can remove them earlier. I believe what we try to do is do an audit and know how many trees and where they are and try to do them in bulk. So if we engage a contractor, we try to get as many trees that we know that we can package up together for the contractor to remove.
Thank you. I have several other questions with regards to the table on my page 56 on our agenda, which is under the map with the zones. So this table with the program for planting, right, with all the colors. So my first question about this table is second row in the table, or third row, talks about urban road. Sorry, I will go to the residents' requests row. Are we planting trees as per residents' request all around the city, each planting season?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, that's correct. So anybody anywhere in the city can request a tree, and we'll endeavour to get a tree in the first winter after that request is made.
Thank you. So in accordance with the table, how it reads, and I'm not sure if it's a mistake, it shows that residents' request will be 230, and it will be only in Zone 2 in 2025. So it means, when I read it, residents' requests in all other parts of the city will not be progressed until we reach to that suburb. So is this the intention?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, that's not the intention. The intention is that we've got 230 listed there. That's across the entire city. That's an estimation in terms of what we expect to receive across the city. So it's planting across the entire city, although we split that table into zones, but that 230 actually relates across the entire city.
Is this the same response with regards to other aspects of the table? Tree replacement program, we're replacing them all around the city, but not only in Zone 2 during 2025?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, that's correct.
So does it mean that the table should be revised so residents can understand what it actually means?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, yes, I can revise that table or put a footnote in there to explain those differences so it's clearer for everybody to understand.
Thank you. A different question. So the reason behind focusing on one area during one planting season, it was explained to us at the briefing. My question is, for example, Zone 3 is Morley. So tree planting in Morley as part of our urban infill street tree planting will only occur in 2033, in 9 years.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Is there a reason or rationale why we continue with the same zone until we finish it instead of focusing 1 year on one zone and then moving so different parts of the city are dealt with in following years, in alternate years, instead of what is the advantage of, for example, Zone 2, focusing on Noranda for 2 years instead of finishing that zone when it comes next time, the turn?
I'll go to the director.
So through the chair, so the thinking is that we base the numbers on the LiDAR information, so we know where there's less canopy and there's areas with more canopy. So we're targeting areas with less canopy, and we're basically targeting a sequential process across the city. So what we try to do is group as much tree planting together to get greater efficiencies from our tree watering program.
Thank you. And just my last question, is there an issue with alternating the years with different areas, with different zones? So each planting season, we will focus on different zone
I'll go to the
on a
director.
rotating basis.
Through the chair, it does state in the report that those figures can change and they can be adjusted as we go along. If we're talking about getting an urban forest officer on board, that's the sort of work that will be done to fine-tune the program to make sure that we get the best results across the city.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions on this item? Councillor Johnson.
Thanks. So this is a question for you, Mayor, because it's great when we get lots of feedback on items, and we have had lots of feedback on some of these items. You don't normally ask people about how they advocated for people to make submissions. I'm just wondering what was your intention in asking the questions of the resident about why they, if they advocated for people to make submissions on this item.
Every councillor, including the mayor, has the opportunity to ask deputies questions about their deputation. So I have that ability
I just
to.
wondered if you could explain your intention.
I had a question and I wanted to know the answer.
Okay. We've had representation.
I'm not having a debate with you, Councillor Johnson, on why I'm asking questions to deputies. That's my right, and you have the right to do that as well. I have a question to the director about this item. Are people able to report dead trees via the Snap Send Solve app?
That's correct. They can report a dead tree through that app, or they can just simply call up or put it through other means to the city.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this item, Councillor Latta?
I have a question of council on this item. I just wonder if any councillors also communicated with residents about this particular item.
This isn't the opportunity to ask councillors questions. This is the opportunity to ask the staff questions. If you want to speak to your other councillors that you have questions, you're welcome to do so at any point in time. Right now, it's questions for officers.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question on this item? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I noticed Mr Williams asked a question about watering. Sorry, am I on the right item? Watering,
No.
Yeah,
That's a different item that Mr Williams did deputation on. Okay, so we'll now move to the next item, which is 10.5.1.8, which is the planning policy review, tree retention. Does anyone have a question on this item?
So my apologies, my question was on 10.3.3.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So Mr Williams talked about the cost of watering new plantings coming out of the environmental budget. I'm just wondering if I could, and this might need to be taken on notice, but what would be the cost, please, for the city to water our new plantings when we have our, through after our new planting season?
Is that across all locations?
Yes.
I'll go to the director.
I'll have to take that one on notice.
Thank you.
Councillor Eason.
Yeah, I might as well ask this one. I've sent an email through, but requesting it though. But I'm interested in the modelling. So, and I have sent it through as I mentioned, but I'll just raise it here because it's linked to that. In just regarding the trade-off between planting trees and watering trees, and if there's because there'll be survival rates that will be built into that model. And I'm just trying to understand where's the best bang for buck. Is it chucking trees in the ground and hoping they survive? Or is it putting less in the ground and watering them more? And I guess that's the question, but I'm happy to take it on notice.
I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, that work has been done previously, but what I'll do is I'll take it on notice and provide some further information for council.
Okay, so now we'll go on to 10.5.1.8, which is planning policy review, tree retention and provision of trees. Any questions on this? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Just wondering, if the policy in the form that is now proposed to be advertised, if that were adopted, would it prevent the clearing of trees when residential blocks are subdivided?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. Through the chair. So, can I just clarify? Are you referring to a subdivision application?
Yes.
Okay. So the policy applies to a subdivision application insofar as that if there are mature trees that exist on the property, then the city would recommend conditions to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage to retain those trees on site.
Ask a follow-up question. So just to clarify, so the subdivision of a single residential block is the decision maker for that is not the City of Bayswater, is that correct?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. Green Title and Survey Strata subdivisions, the delegation is held with the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage from the West Australian Planning Commission. Built strata applications, that delegation is held with a local government.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up question, please? So if the city makes a recommendation to refuse the removal of trees when a block is subdivided, what framework or structure does the West Australian Planning Commission have to take those recommendations into account?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. The Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage relies upon their Development Control Policy 2.2 in relation to subdivisions, whereby they are to consider local government referral agency comments.
Sorry, if I can ask one more. What weight does consider have on a determination, please?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. Consideration is dependent on the department how they wish to apply it.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions on this item? No? Are there any questions on 11.2, which is the notice of motion from Councillor Latta, dual naming of Barton Park? Councillor Ostowski.
Sorry, my apologies. I did have a question in
On the
regards to
previous one? Oh,
previous
go ahead.
item. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is the city able to provide a breakdown of the suburbs, the respondents per suburb for the for the previous items policy, even now or in writing or whatever?
Through the chair, I'll take that on notice and provide it to all councillors, a breakdown of submission by suburb.
Correct. Thank you.
Is that your only question?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll now go back to 11.2, the notice of motion by Councillor Latta. Any questions on this one? No? I haven't received notice from any councillors for questions on any other items. Anyone wish to ask any questions? If not, I will close the agenda briefing forum at 7:50 p.m. Thanks, everyone.